Okay, let's lean back, see how that looks. Hey, what's up, everybody? I have pretty much been a wreck reading of Mice and Men today. I read like the whole thing today, and just like a little bit yesterday. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish it real quick. This is a really short book, but we're gonna finish it. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, in case you don't watch last video. The brush seemed filled with cries, and with the sound of running feet, Slim's voice shouted, "George, where you at, George?" But George sat stiffly on the bank. Oh, by the way, if you haven't read Mice and Men, this last page is obviously a spoiler, so I don't know why you're watching, but I'm just gonna mention it. But George sat stiffly on the bank and looked at his right hand that had thrown the gun away. The group burst into the clearing. Curling was ahead. He saw Lenny lying on the sand. Got him, by God. He went over and looked at Lenny, and then he looked back at George. Right in the back of the head, he said softly. Slim came directly to George and sat down beside him. Sat very close to him. "Never you mind," said Slim. "A guy got to sometimes." But Carlson was standing over George. "How'd you do it?" he asked. "I just done it," George said tiredly. "Did he have my gun?" "Yeah, he had your gun." "And you got it away from him and you took it and you killed him?" "Yeah, that's how." George's voice was almost a whisper. He looked steadily at his right hand that had held the gun. Slim twitched George's elbow. "Come on, George. Me and you will go in and get a drink." George let himself be helped to his feet. "Yeah, a drink." Slim said, "You had a, George. I swear you had a. Come on with me." He led George into the entrance of the trail and up toward the highway. Curly and Carlson looked after them, and Carlson said, "What the hell you suppose is eating them two guys?" And that's the end of the book. Finish pile. Whew. So, John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men is one of the only books that I can say is haunting. It's actually very beautifully, just horribly beautiful is the way I like to describe it. In the intro for Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, I mentioned that I'm pretty sure that I had the end of Mice and Men spoiled for me. And I'll explain why. If you haven't watched Walking Dead up to the point you are now, we are now, I don't think you should watch this part. You skip ahead because it's a spoiler for Walking Dead. But I've been an avid fan of the show Walking Dead, and there was a plot point in the last season in which a girl named Lizzie was killed by her mother figure named Carol. And Lenny and Lizzie, I don't think that was, but I thought it was weird. And in the discussion, they just said that the scene felt a lot like the end of Mice and Men. And they said Lenny, and they made all these jokes. And I hadn't read Of Mice and Men, so I didn't get the reference. I honestly thought it was a Walking Dead comics reference because I wasn't caught up. But basically, spoiler alert if you haven't read the book. Usually I don't really put up a spoiler alert for books like this, but in Stanley's Challenge. But I'm going to this time. At the end, George shoots Lenny in the head, and that is probably one of the saddest scenes I've ever read. And me knowing what was happening as it was happening, as the scene got closer and closer to the picture on the front of the book, which I realized was symbolic, as every time he described something, I kept looking and realizing that this is the final scene of the book. Expecting it made it so much worse, and the way that John Steinbeck wrote deaths in this book especially is like he glossed over them, and it made them so much more meaningful, like when Lenny snaps Curly's wife's neck. It's funny, we never learned her name, but it just said her neck was broken and she's dead now. And that's basically how they handled Lenny's death, and I thought that was kind of symbolic in a way, or not symbolic, just interesting in a way that you don't know when someone's gonna die. They just die. They just keel over and it's over. And I don't know really what to say about Of Mice and Men other than I enjoyed it. Problems I had with this book is that despite being from Georgia, which is considered part of the South, I could not understand half of the things characters said to each other, as I'm not very adept with Southern accents. But that is only a personal issue, and otherwise this is a great book. But I should probably Google some of the translations of the If you've noticed, I don't look like I'm very healthy because last night was Halloween, And where's my costume? This is my costume. That was about it. I was Mickey Mouse. But, I am very tired and I had a rough night. So, Mice and Men, great book, 8 out of 10. Next week we will be reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, our first Oscar Wilde novel, and I hear that people like him a lot. It's got dust on it. I would like to give a quick shout out to a bookstore in Acworth, Georgia. If you live anywhere near Kennesaw or Acworth, Georgia, it's by the Town Center Mall. And it's this bookstore. It's not really a bookstore. It's a used everything store called Second and Charles. And I bought a bunch of books for the challenge there. I don't seem to have all of them. I probably put them over there, and I'm too lazy to go grab them. But I have a couple of them. And this is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I just basically all the ones I could think of. I didn't have the list on me, so I don't have Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, but I did get Scarlet Letter, which is number, let's see. Whoops. Where is it? It's somewhere in here. It's later, I guess. It is number 32, Scarlet Letter. We have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I didn't buy that. A Brave New World, which is after Slaughterhouse-Five. A Last Babylon, which is like the last one. Basically, the last book. And I bought a couple others, I think, if I remember correctly, but I don't know. Thank you to my grandmother for sponsoring the challenge financially. I have nothing else to really say. So, we are going to be reading this book next week. I will see you tomorrow to read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Thank you for watching. When our paths meet again, in fact, winky face. My unfinished pile is getting like bigger. As soon as I thought my finished pile was gonna be like catching up, it's just getting bigger. Now my room smells like dusty books, which is the best kind of smell. Let's go ahead and just there we go. I'll study the camera, real nice. Doot doot doot, doot 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 doot. La 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 la. Is my face gonna be dark in this video? I guess so.